with M-U-S. Everybody now am. Come on. I'm so blessed to be with them. Say M-U-S. L-I-M. I'm so blessed to be with them. Say M-U-S. L-I-M. Come on. I'm so blessed to be with them. 1 billion strong all year long. Prayers to Allah even in Hong Kong. Can never be wrong if we read the Quran. Say their names, let the story be sung. Voices of the past, keep the future young. Stand together, we rise as one. Black Muslim strong till the work is done. Love broke chains with a voice so pure. Call to the prayers, faith was sure. The first black Muslim to stand so tall. His courage and strength still inspire us all. 1040 rows with a scholar's hand, teaching the dean across the land. Built a community, schools of life. Africa's flame still burning bright. Malcolm X spoke truth to the crowd. Fearless and firm, his voice was loud. From Harlem to Mecca, his vision grew. Justice, respect in the world made new. Imam Jamil behind the bars, still teaching faith like the brightest stars. A leader of strength, a fighter for peace. He showed us the way, the struggle won't cease. Daughter of scholars, a teacher, a queen. She built the women with knowledge and dreams. Black Muslim sister, her wisdom was wide. God in the Ummah with honor and pride. Timbuktu shine where libraries grand. Black Muslim knowledge across the land. Golden pages, wisdom stored. Faith and science in one accord. We need our own to build and grow. A place for the children, seed of soul. One community standing tall. Together united, we won't let faith let the story be sung. Voices of the past keep the future young. Stand together, we rise as one. Black Muslim strong till the work is done.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another day for Muslim African American Heritage Month. We welcome you and we thank you for tuning in. So, today we got a very special show. Let's open with prayer and then we'll get started. In the name of God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, all praise to God, the cherisher and sustainer of all the worlds. Merciful benefactor, merciful redeemer, master of the day of judgment, you alone do you worship, and alone in your aid do we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom you have blessed, not those who go astray, nor those who have got your wrath. Amen. So welcome you to another day. The month is pushing on, so got about 20-something days to go. But today, we want to thank our sponsors, Imam Worthy Muhammad 50 years, 50 plus, Community Planning Conference, Bruce Rashid Information Channel, and the Taqwa Production Global Media. All right, so let's look at the week 2, part 2, Noble Drew Ali to Elijah Muhammad. We did Clara Muhammad yesterday, which was really good. We did Farah Muhammad, Oliver Elijah Muhammad, Sister Clara Muhammad, Clara's Fruit. And today we're looking at a very special person, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm Little or Malcolm X. Tomorrow we do the Nation of Islam, Muhammad Ali, Louis Farrakhan, Jamil El-Amin, and Siraj Wahaj. So, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X, a very special person. Why? Because when he was released to jail and joined the Nation of Islam, there may be 500, Nation of Islam people, members. When it was over upon his death, it was 30,000. So that's how much I think his influence had on the nation. It was a group effort, but he was the spokesperson. He really made it popular, started hitting the TV scene, and made the Nation of Islam grow, right? So that's why he's so popular. He's a worldwide name up there with Malcolm, Martin Luther King. You know, he was like it was a good cop, bad cop situation, and he was the bad cop. That's why he doesn't get his own, national holiday. You know, he was seen as more of a force, by any means necessary, very, very, very outspoken, and he believed in violence to get the job done. So we want to talk about him today. All right. So the quiz question for today. Did you know that Muslims who followed Malcolm X when he was assassinated started a community? That's a bomb. Like we know the Nation of Islam, we know the Imam Muhammad community, we even know Dar community. But did you know that there were believers who followed Malcolm X when he was assassinated that retreated behind gates and developed communities? How do I know this? I was part when I was looking for a wife, I was talking to a sister and she actually lived behind those gates. And she said they have communities, they have houses, they have businesses, they have all kind of community life, but it's behind gates. They took their children behind gates back in the 60s to protect them, and they started community. So I was trying to get in touch with her, and she, talked to her father that was part of that community up and down the East Coast, but I lost touch. We weren't, didn't get together, and you know, I want to do more research. I want to find these communities and, share more with our community that we have another sister community called the Muslims in America that she did tell me that. And, there were communities behind closed gates. So I thought that was amazing. We never, most people don't know 'em. I don't know if most people even met someone from, because they probably walk among Muslims, but you don't know that they're living behind these gates and their communities established by Muslims. So I thought that was amazing. All right. So today we're going to go cover Malcolm X, and we're going to try to spend the hour learning more about him and what he did. And we're also going to take some look at some of Nation of Islam because we want to make sure that the regular FOI and MGT, who's not the well-known person like Malcolm X or Farrakhan, also get their recognition. So we're going to take a look at them too. All right, sit back and enjoy.
I'm Clint Smith, and this is Crash Course Black American History. I still remember the first time that I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, back when I was a teenager. I was awestruck by the story of a man who went from being young, lost, and involved in a life of crime to someone who transformed himself into one of the most important civil rights leaders in American history. It was inspiring to read the story of a man who refused to be defined by the circumstances of his past, and who used self-education to help himself better understand the issues facing Black Americans so that he could better advocate on their behalf. And sometimes Malcolm X can be presented as a foil to Dr. King. Malcolm versus Martin, violence versus nonviolence, nationalism versus integration. But as always, the story is much more complicated than that. Malcolm X was a complex, dynamic person who was constantly evolving. And today, we're going to learn some more about the process of that evolution. Let's start the show. Malcolm X was born Malcolm Little in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. His parents, Earl and Louise Little, had been supporters of the activist Marcus Garvey. Garvey's followers believed in Black self-determination and encouraged Black Americans to form their own nation-states in Africa. The political backgrounds of Malcolm's parents were core to the philosophical enlightenment he would experience later in his 20s. Earl Little's activism brought much unwanted violence from white supremacists, The family regularly received death threats, which required them to relocate twice before Malcolm turned 4. Still, they couldn't outrun the terror that followed them. And in 1929, they lost their home in Lansing, Michigan to arson. Then, in 1931, Earl Little was run over and killed by a streetcar. And while it was never proven in court, Malcolm always believed that he had been killed at the hands of white supremacists. And if that wasn't enough, in 1939, Malcolm's mother was committed to a mental institution after suffering from a mental health breakdown. At 13 years old, Malcolm fell into the foster care system and had to adopt new methods of survival. He dropped out of school at 15 years old and turned to a life of crime where he engaged in theft, gambling, and selling drugs. Let's go to the thought bubble. In 1946, Malcolm Little was arrested and sentenced to 8 to 10 years in state prison, Massachusetts, on burglary charges. While incarcerated, he was drawn to a newly organized group of black Muslims called the Nation of Islam and the teachings of NOI leader El-Hajj Muhammad. Among Muhammad's teachings were the principal ideas of self-determination and black enterprise. He also insisted that racism worked specifically to keep black Americans from achieving political, economic, and social success. The NOI also fought for a state of their own, separate from white people, similar to the earlier teachings of Marcus Garvey that young Malcolm's parents subscribed to. Following the custom of members of the NOI, Malcolm changed his last name to X. Muhammad's teachings suggested that given surnames were slave names, bestowed upon them by the white man. The X signified Malcolm's lost tribal name. And while in prison, Malcolm wrote in his autobiography that he endeavored to use education to change his life. He said he read every book in the prison library. He said he copied the entire dictionary by hand, and he said that he was always reading late into the night. He later wrote, quote, "Right outside my door was a corridor light that cast a glow into my room. The glow was enough to read by, once my eyes adjusted to it. So when lights out came, I would sit on the floor where I could continue reading in that glow." By the time he was paroled in 1952, after serving 7 years, Malcolm was a devoted follower of Elijah Muhammad. Thanks, Thought Bubble. After he was released, he assumed a leadership role in the NOI, and it didn't take long for Malcolm to become the organization's national spokesman. His charisma, drive, and eloquence attracted an astounding number of converts. The NOI only had 500 members by the time he joined in 1952. By 1963, membership had increased to 30,000. Now, the Nation of Islam took a pretty different approach to civil rights activism than other organizers at the time. Racial uplift was core to the organization's philosophy, and they had several criticisms of Christian activists who adopted desegregation and nonviolent civil disobedience as their doctrine in the movement for black liberation. The Nation of Islam wanted to address the sweeping problems of unemployment, underemployment, and economic injustice that black Americans face. There was also the oppressive presence of white political power and police brutality, even in areas where black people were the majority. The nation felt that if, after 10 years of boycotts, demonstrations, sit-ins, and freedom rides, black people had still not achieved freedom, it was time for a new approach. And there was a growing number of black folks across the country who felt the same way. Malcolm had his own critiques. He believed that black people needed land, power, and freedom, not desegregation. He took issue with civil rights leaders he perceived as being sellouts, who white liberals had selected to keep black Americans from demanding actual equality. Desegregation, he believed, may have integrated schools, but it did not move black people closer to actual liberation. It certainly did not address police brutality, unemployment, poverty, or housing shortages, greatly impacting black communities. An avid nationalist, Malcolm X was certain black empowerment could take place if black people pooled their resources to build their own facilities to meet the community's needs. If they could develop their own hospitals, schools, factories, and clean up their own neighborhoods, they would not need to integrate white spaces or establishments. But most importantly, he believed that this type of empowerment could only happen if black people learned to love themselves defend themselves, and establish their own economic system. In his rhetoric, Malcolm X insisted over and over again that Black is beautiful. And this resonated with many Black people who lived and had grown up in a society that told them over and over again, directly and indirectly, that they were ugly, that their hair was too kinky, that their noses were too wide, that their lips were too big. The list goes on and on. This self-love approach extended past an appreciation for one's physical attributes, though. Malcolm X began to publicly challenge Dr. Martin Luther King's philosophy of nonviolent direct action as they both gained more influence in the early 1960s. More and more Black citizens began to defect from the nonviolent movement and join the ranks of the NOI after the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham in 1963. Exhausted from seeing women, children, and peaceful demonstrators abused, tortured, and even murdered, Black Americans began to defend their right to protest and protect their bodies in the line of fire. As NOI membership continued to grow, the FBI and other law enforcement organizations continued their long history of keeping tabs on Black activists and began infiltrating the organization. They hired Black people to pose as members of the nation and planted bugs, wiretaps, cameras, and other surveillance equipment all around the organization. And they got really close to the leaders. One of them even served as Malcolm's bodyguard. But as Malcolm's influence grew, criticisms didn't just come from outside the Nation of Islam. It came from inside as well. And this all came to a head in 1964. Malcolm made public comments about John F. Kennedy's assassination, stating that the murder was a consequence of, quote, chickens coming home to roost. Elijah Muhammad hadn't wanted any member speaking on the assassination, and Muhammad punished Malcolm X by stripping away his ability to do any public speaking for 90 days. But many saw this as an excuse to shut Malcolm up. See, Malcolm had become the face of the Nation of Islam. Journalists wrote huge profiles on him, interviewed him on the news, put his face on the cover of magazines, and NOI leadership thought that Malcolm had become too big, bigger than Elijah Muhammad, bigger than the NOI. And they couldn't accept that. Another part of this is that Malcolm was steadily developing his own civil rights framework that was increasingly at odds with that of the Nation of Islam. Plus, he had become disillusioned with its leadership. He had heard rumors of Muhammad's extramarital affairs with young girls in the nation, and there was also evidence of mishandling of finances by higher-ups. So in March 1964, Malcolm parted ways with the Nation of Islam and resigned from his post as minister. Finally free from the limitations that had been imposed on him, that April, Malcolm went on his pilgrimage to Mecca, and there he went through a phase of enlightenment. There, he changed his name to El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz and had some important revelations on this trip. For example, he no longer thought of white people as the inherent enemy. He wrote in a letter from Mecca, quote, there were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe never could exist between the white and non-white. You may be shocked by these words coming from me, but on this pilgrimage, what I've seen and experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns previously held and to toss aside some of my previous conclusions. He did, however, become concerned that differences over religion were preventing a united front against racism. Shortly after returning home, he established the Organization of African American Unity, a name inspired by the Organization of African Unity created by the newly independent African states. All of this following a wave of decolonization as African countries became independent of the European powers that had occupied them for so long. Open to folks of all religious backgrounds, but not necessarily all racial backgrounds, the Organization of Afro-American Unity was intended to address Black economic issues and represent Black American politics on an international level. He wanted to ensure that Black Americans' plight was regarded as a human rights issue Unfortunately, Malcolm X and his organization didn't have enough time to truly set that plan in motion. On February 21st, 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated while giving a speech to a crowd of 400 to 500 people at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City. A total of 7 shots struck him, killing him immediately. In many ways, this was no surprise, at least not to Malcolm. His lawyer at the time of his death, Percy Sutton, stated that Malcolm feared for his life, and he carried a gun to protect himself. He knew that members of the NOI were deeply upset with him and was acutely aware that his life was in danger. After his death, the autobiography he had been co-writing with the writer Alex Haley was published, and quickly, Malcolm X became a cult-like figure. It is a book that continues to resonate with many people who read it today, including me. His legacy influenced new organizations like the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. These organizations continued much of Malcolm's philosophy, carrying the torch for Black independence, self-defense, self-sufficiency, and racial pride through what were often even more militant approaches. His rise from being a young man involved in crime to becoming one of the most important civil rights leaders in American history continues to serve as an inspiration for millions of people who want to change their lives and circumstances through a process of discipline, self-transformation, and education. Malcolm X wasn't a perfect man, in the same way that none of us are perfect people, but he demonstrated a capacity for growth and evolution whose ultimate manifestations we never got a chance to fully see. Who knows where he would have ended up and what he would have accomplished if he had only had a little more time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Crash Course is made with the help of all these nice people, and our animation team is Thought Cafe. Crash Course is made possible by all of our viewers and supporters, and we want to thank those who purchased the 2021 Crash Course Learner Coin, and thank also our patrons on Patreon.
Do you know where you came from? What's your name?
Malcolm Little.
No. That's the name of the slave masters who own your family. You don't even know who you are. Who are you?
Say Roseland. Roseland.
He was a pusher, a hustler, a thief.
You ready to tackle the streets? Yeah, I'm ready. Let him come.
He was loved, respected, convicted.
State your number, Little. I forgot it.
In a dream that's divine.
He was a prisoner who set himself free.
A Muslim must be strikingly upright. I will not touch the white man's drugs, his liquor, his women, so that those in the darkness can see the power of the light. I will not lie, cheat, or steal.
I believe you will remain faithful. Yes.
He was a follower who became a leader.
You're not an American. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
He brought honor to disobedience.
I suggest you look outside that window.
You've been laying down and bowing down for 400 years. I think it's time to stand up.
All right, break it up. You got what you wanted.
No, I'm not satisfied. That's too much power for one man to have.
And a voice to a people who longed to be heard.
You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray.
You're saying you're anti-white.
No, you're saying I'm anti-white.
I'm sorry, Betty. I haven't been the best husband. I love you.
Do you advocate violence?
No, sir.
Academy Award winner Denzel Washington's most electrifying performance. director Spike Lee's most powerful film.
Malcolm, can we all live together? I sincerely hope so.
And the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. St. John 10, verse 10. Are there any questions?
Hey, watch it, baby. This cat is heavy on religion.
I can see this has become a struggle between good and evil. Satan has a question.
Yes, sir, Chaplain Gill, but since neither one of us are God, I don't think either one of us are in any position to say who's good and who's evil.
Why don't you just ask your question?
We were discussing the disciples. What color were they?
Well, I don't think we know that for certain.
But they were Hebrews, were they not?
That's right.
As was Jesus. Jesus was also a Hebrew.
Why don't you just ask your question?
What color were the original Hebrews?
I have told you that we don't know that for certain.
Then you can't believe for certain that Jesus was white.
Just a moment. God is white. Isn't it obvious?
Well, that is obvious, but we don't know if it's obvious that God is white. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Jesus did not have blonde hair and blue eyes. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the images of Jesus that are on prison walls and churches throughout the world are not historically correct, because history teaches us that Jesus was born in a region where the people had color. There's proof in the very Bible that you ask us to read in Revelation, 1st chapter, verse 14 and 15, that Jesus had hair like wool and feet the color of brass.
Just what are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm proving to you that Jesus was not, and I might quote one of our Indian brothers, he was not a paleface. Amen.
Isn't that interesting?
And you don't know how to fight. You can't fight nor bark until the white man say bark or fight. In the South, you are segregated by that dog. In the North, you integrated with this dog. And it's no different. I hope you're not getting too wet. Well, the dog is their best friend. The dog is their closest relative. They got the same kind of hair, the same kind of skin, and the same kind of smell. Oh, yeah. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad finishes opening your and my eyes and making it possible for us to see this white man like he really is, he don't have to worry about us integrating with him. We don't want to be around that old pale thing. We don't want to be around that old pale thing. We don't want to integrate with that old pale thing. We don't want to sleep next to that old pale thing. So we can do without him. You find that old pale thing laying out in the sun, trying to get to look like you. That old pale thing. You find him using man-cane, trying to look like you. That old pale thing. That old sickly-looking thing. And today we see him like he is. There was a time when we used to drool in the mouth over white people. We thought they were pretty because we were blind. We were dumb. We couldn't see them as they are. But since the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has come and taught us the religion of Islam, which has cleaned us up and made us so we can see for ourselves, now we can see that old pale thing to look exactly as he looked. Nothing but an old pale thing. You know, they call this hate speech. This is not hate teaching. This is love teaching. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't tell you what I'm telling you. That's right. I wouldn't stick my neck out. I wouldn't take the chance. But don't you know that old blue-eyed thing stands around here just waiting for me to say something that he can put me in jail? I make sure that everything I say is the truth, the gospel truth. And once I know it's the truth, I'm going to tell it if it costs me my life. So this isn't hate teaching. This is love teaching. This is love talk. We love you, but we don't love him. We want to unite with you, but we don't want to unite with him. We recognize you as our brother, but we don't recognize that old blue-eyed thing as our brother. Let him go on and be a brother to himself.
We aren't a violent group. We are taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to obey the law, to respect everyone who respects us. We're taught to display courtesy, to be polite. But we're also taught that at any time anyone in any way inflicts or seeks to inflict violence upon us, we are within our religious rights to retaliate in self-defense to the maximum degree of our ability. The charge of violence against us actually stems from the guilt complex that exists in the conscious and subconscious minds of most white people in this country. They know that they've been violent in their brutality against Negroes, and they feel that someday the Negro is going to wake up and try and do unto them as they have do unto the whites as the whites have done unto us. The Muslims who have accepted the religion of Islam and follow the religious guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have never bombed any churches, have never murdered any little girls, as was done in Birmingham, have never lynched anybody, have never at any time been guilty of initiating any aggressive acts of violence during the entire 33 years or more that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching us. We never initiate any violence upon anyone, but if anyone attacks us, we reserve the right to defend ourselves. So to accuse us of being violent is like accusing a man who is being lynched, who is being hung on a tree, simply because he struggles vigorously against his lyncher. The victim is accused of violence, but the lyncher is never accused of violence. And I only point this out because the various racist groups that are set up in this country by whites and who have actually practiced violence against blacks for 400 years are never associated or identified or made synonymous with the term violence. But whites speak of Muslims almost synonymously with violence. Whenever Muslims are mentioned by them, violence is brought up. But it's not connected with any other group. This is a sort of a propaganda tactic, or what I would call psychological warfare, to in some way make the image of the Muslims in this country be a violent image rather than a religious image. I think you'll find, sir, that there will come a time when black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves. Then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel
I have a key.
black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation
We both got a key.
where when you
There were
attack
two.
one black man,
We
you
both
are
have a key to the back door. There were two.
and this type of black
I'll go
thinking
by,
will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself.
You say then that The United States is not the black man's country.
Definitely
American laws
not.
are not black man's laws.
No. So,
American laws are not the black man's laws.
Well, the laws here in America were made by white people for the benefit of white people. The Constitution was written by whites for the benefit of whites. It was never written for the benefit of blacks. And when you read the Constitution, I think in Article 1, Section 2, or Section 1, Article 1, so one of the two, and it's in the Constitution, it says that it classifies black people as 3/5 of a man. 3/5 of a man, subhuman, less than a human being. It relegates us to the level of cattle, hogs, chickens, cows, a commodity that could be bought and sold at the will of the master. No, it was written by whites for the benefit of whites and to the detriment of blacks. And when a black man stands up talking about his constitutional rights, he's out of his mind. If the white people really passed meaningful laws, it would not be necessary to pass any more laws. There are already enough laws on the law books to protect an American citizen. You only need additional laws when you're dealing with someone who is not regarded as an American citizen. But whites are so hypocritical. They don't want to admit that this black man is not a citizen.
Wearing the Ihram garb, I made my 7 circuits around the Kaaba. I drank from the well of Zamzam. I prayed to Allah from Mount Arafat. It was the only time in my life that I stood before the Creator of all and felt like a complete human being.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Now you may be shocked by these words, but I have eaten from the same plate, drunk from the same glass, and prayed to the same God with fellow Muslims whose eyes were blue, whose hair was blonde, and whose skin was the whitest of white. And we were all brothers, truly. People of all colors and races believing in one God and one humanity. Each hour here in this sacred land enables me to have a greater spiritual insight into what is happening in America. The American Negro can never be blamed for his racial animosities. He's only reacting to 400 years of oppression and discrimination. But as racism leads America up the suicidal path, I do believe that the younger generation will see the handwriting on the wall, and many of them will want to turn to the spiritual path of the truth. The only way left in this world to ward off the disaster that racism must surely lead to. Once before, in prison, the truth came and blinded me. Well, it has happened again. In the past, I've made sweeping indictments of all white people. And these generalizations have caused injuries to some white folks who did not deserve them.
Because of the spiritual rebirth which I was blessed to undergo as a result of my pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, I no longer subscribe to sweeping indictments of one race. I intend to be very careful not to sentence anyone.
Who has not been proven guilty.
I am not a racist.
I am not a racist. And I do not subscribe to any of the tenets of racism. In all honesty and sincerity, it can be stated that I wish nothing but freedom, justice, and equality.
going to get it, okay? Mhm.
Because we didn't have no brothers that wasn't ready to stand up and give their life for John. Brothers, they just kept coming. See, we had companies of brothers. The majority of the brothers had been placed on a 6-mile stretch from 89th Street to on the south side of Chicago to 46th Street. We had had them on in between. Good to see brothers understand. Fight for the nation of Islam. Brother Williams there, one of the directors of the school in Los Angeles. This is some of the ministers right there on the front row. There's Minister Farrakhan right there. You can see him right there in the dark glasses. That's our moon and star. And this day, they said it was going to rain and storm us out. But it cleared up. And the sun gave a divine revelation and flashed on the moon and star. We lined the police up and retired them. They came out and wanted to help. We told them we didn't need them. Park the cars and sit there and look. This is our day. They had theirs. And they did. And the mayor of Chicago got on the radio and television that night and said he wanted to commend the Honorable El-Hajj Malik for the work that he has done, that not one incident was reported to the police force on the whole south side of Chicago during the day that we had our parade. No robberies, no murders, no thefts, Nothing. Because this shook up everybody. Everybody was out to see what we were doing. They had never seen nothing like this before. Everybody stopped doing everything they were doing and came out to our parade. Clowns. The car couldn't go on its own powder, so we had to put some black powder behind it. Move it on out the way. See the helicopters up there? They were flying all day long up there in the air. We had them all over the south side, just flying up there. Looking to see what we were doing. They didn't know what was going to happen. But we had everything under control. See all our beautiful sisters over there? They were lined up like that for 6 miles. El-Hajj Mama wasn't playing no game. He was serious. And we were serious. For the first time in our life, we had a leader and teacher that was doing something for us. And we were letting the world know how proud we were of him. This is why we don't have any juvenile problems, because they can see, our children can see. Work. All this land. When the white people saw that we wanted to do something, then they were eager to sell us anything we wanted. Although they charged us more than it was worth. But we needed it in order to show our people what we could do if we united together and become an independent people. And this is how we got to respect. You have to respect the people that are producers. This is the irrigation going to not only the corn and the other vegetation out there, but it's also going to the trees. We had almond trees, almond orchards. We had grape orchards. Orchards, as far as you can see, the grapes. We're just riding over the land now. Look at it. See, this is the man that you see. These are almonds. There, that was the almond orchard.
World famous Ali bean pies, right here. Check out the bean pie. Bean pie, custard bean, the best in the city. Make you say, ooh, why did he? Come on, get it, let's be with it.
What's that smell? Ooh,
Oh. Guys, come here, come here. Damn, what's that smell? Damn, smell. Damn, smells good. I feel like damn, oh my God. Damn. What's in here, Jeremy? It looks like some bean pie.
I love bean pies. I can say that. I mean, I don't really know the historical backdrop, how the bean pie came into existence, but whoever created the bean pie, may Allah bless that person.
The bean pies go back to Nation of Islam days under Elijah Muhammad. This was a, how would you say, it was something, it was unique to the Muslims and the Nation of Islam at that time. At that time, we were called the black Muslims.
The bean pie originates from the Middle East. It's actually a food that was brought over by Master Fard Muhammad back in the 1930s.
No, that's not true. This pie was originated up in New York City by a sister named El-Hajj Shabazz, as far as I know. That's the history goes back. She was also the cook for Muhammad Ali, the fighter, in the training. She was his main cook. Next, I heard it got to my sister, Ethel Sharif Muhammad. I started making the bean pie, and we was putting it on the shelves of different grocery stores. They would accept it. But first, I had to introduce the bean pie to the public where they would accept the taste. So I didn't tell them it was bean pie. I named it after the bakery in which I was a manager. That was South Park Bakery, so I called it South Park Special.
If you have never had bean pie, you have not had an authentic American Muslim experience. The taste of the bean pie, whether you like it or not, is part of the roots, the taste. If you go to Egypt and you don't have full or falafel, people will wonder, did you really go there? If you come to America and you leave, you didn't have bean pie, you wasn't really here. Assalamu alaikum.
I mean, even...
I want to show you one more video. You see the richness of the community back then. I want to show you one more video part of it, and then we'll do discussion.
The dominant ethos was integration, which means assimilating and going into white institutions.
The most controversial interpreters of the faith during the 1960s was the Nation of Islam. They offered a brand of Islam tailored to the oppressed black masses. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was their leader.
I'm your blood and your flesh. White people are not your brother. They're not your blood and your flesh.
The nation tapped into black anger and disillusionment. Some members of the Nation of Islam believed Elijah Muhammad was a prophet. Some believed the messenger of God, and some believed him to be God in the flesh.
I represent to you not a prophet, yes sir, but I represent to you God in person. Yes, sir.
They believed not in black equality, but black superiority. The Nation of Islam seemed to be the spiritual expression of the Black Power movement.
They had millions of dollars of real estate. They had their own bank. They had the newspaper, Muhammad Speaks, with the largest circulation of any black newspaper in America, farmlands, you know, many, many millions of dollars of assets.
The Nation of Islam had emerged from the black working-class neighborhoods of Detroit during the 1930s. Its founder, W.D. Farad, a pale-skinned man, invented a theology in which whites were the devils and blacks the creators of the universe.
He talked about white people as the inverse of black people, who he presented as kind of divine group of people. And the white people, according to W.D. Fard, were involved in devilish kinds of behavior in terms of racism and economic inequities, which they had perpetrated on the black community.
Salam alaikum. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, to whom all holy praises is due.
Elijah Muhammad used traditional greetings, but he did not teach from Islam's holy book, the Quran. Instead, he used the Bible.
The Bible was used specifically because we, as black people, had never seen the Holy Quran.
All right, so let's move into discussion. So we see how at that time, you know, the peak of the black person, the black so-called Muslim, they were seeking, you know, unity. They were seeking discipline. They were seeking to be a race of people that came from slavery. So you can see how they were attracted to whatever the people were teaching, even if it wasn't full Islam. They were embracing that knowledge. They were embracing that opportunity. See people together, see people, black women dressed nice and white, see the men black dressed in uniforms. I did an interview recently, and the brother said when he was from South Carolina, he went to his mother house dressed in that FOI uniform. She was just beaming with joy because he looked so clean and look at you, like he was in the army or whatever. So he said that felt so good to him. He ain't never felt so good in his life. So we see with that peak of unity and you know, brotherhood and sisterhood brought. So that was a rich time. That was a good time for the community, even though it wasn't as guided as it should been, like it is today, that God is one. So we don't want to just throw that history away and discredit all of that. I think they all had good intentions. I think they wanted to come to God being slaves and former Christians or people who believed in Jesus, or white man, as we saw in Malcolm X, and they came to Islam, what they thought was Islam. And then what we'll learn next week is the movement of that to mainstream Islam is why we give Imam W.D. Muhammad so much respect and love and, you know, encouragement with his movement, because he took us into Islam proper. So we'll look at that next week. So let's open it up for anybody to, if they had any questions or any feedback or any kind of discussion on what they saw today.
Per usual, amazing job with sharing the information. This is all new to me and so much to soak in, but now I'm like, oh, it's $3.99 to watch the Malcolm X movie on YouTube because I've never seen it, so I have to watch
Oh,
it.
you should definitely see it. It's really good. I only show parts of it.
And I've never had a bean pie, so now when I'm off Camp Creek, now I gotta stop and be like,
You gotta get you a bean pie. You would never go back to like another dessert being your favorite. So definitely get your bean pie. All right, yeah, they also have bean soup. So that was good too. I like bean soup. We were raised on bean soup and bean pie. And what that is, believe it or not, is two authentic African American foods. And you don't have many of those. I mean, we have maybe, I don't even know if we came up with fried chicken and, you know, collard greens and soul food, but I know we came up with the bean pie and with the bean soup. And those are authentic dishes that you can't get from any other people. That's the African American people. All right. So thank you for that comment and thank you for tuning in. We'll close out, and I appreciate you again taking time to watch the history of Muslim African Americans and learning more about our struggles and our journey. So what I'll do now, let's see. All right. So we covered quite a bit. Noble Drew Ali, W.D. Fard Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, Sister Clara Muhammad. And today was El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. And some of the Nation of Islam. I really enjoyed looking at the FOI MGT videos because we don't want to forget behind these great figures are thousands of people who are doing the work, who's doing the actual work, and who's making the movement successful. Tomorrow we're gonna look at Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay, one of my favorite figures in history. We'll take a look at Louis Farrakhan, Jamil El-Amin, and Siraj Wahaj as we move into the next week, where we'll be looking at some of the other veins. I'm calling them veins because Imam Muhammad was not the only vein of Black African American Muslims. You also had the Dar Islam movement. You also had Jamil Al-Amin movement. You also had Siraj Wahaj movement. So you had different veins. But the vein we're going to focus on next week will be Imam Deputy Muhammad community, which is one of the largest communities of Muslims, African American Muslims. And so that's why we're going to focus on him. That's the community I come from. So that's the history I'm going to do. But I'm not going to ignore our brothers and sisters of other persuasions that did not follow Imam Muhammad, may have followed Jamil Al-Amin, may have followed Siraj Wahaj, and others. So we want to, so 5%ers is other groups, not just Imam Muhammad. But we will be focusing on that for this particular program. All right, thank you again. Let's thank our sponsors for assisting us. IWDM 50 Plus Conference. We'll talk more about that. Baruch Rashid Information Channel and Taqwa Production Global Media. Let's close with dua. Our Lord, give us good in this life and good in the next life, and save us from the torment of the fire. Thank you again. Have a good evening, and inshallah, or God willing, we'll see you next week. I'm sorry. See you tomorrow. I'm getting sleepy. Assalamu alaikum.